All right, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, damas y caballeros, we're joined here today by Aaron Moorehead and Justin Benson, the dual genius directors of Synchronic. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, hello, hi.
All right. Now, Synchronic is a film I saw last year at Fantastic Fest, but it is coming out very soon here. Do you have any details about the release date and why it took so long for this film to come out?
Oh man, that's an interesting question. I think it was actually always slated to come out around now. Is that right?
Yeah, I think
I think it was.
it was always fourth quarter 2020. That was the plan.
Yeah,
was,
quarter three or four. Yeah.
actually,
Actually, couldn't really tell you why it was a long time, except for just like, oh, that's the process. That was the window it fit in, something like that. Obviously, the pandemic changed some stuff, but you know, probably just by a few months or something like that.
Hmm.
yeah, it comes out. It'll be released in theaters and drive-ins October 23rd, which, as this report, is this Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed something on your guys' social media because I'm a creep like that. You guys are not exactly telling people to flock to the theater, but instead check this out from the comfort of their own home. Is that correct?
Or the drive-in.
Or the drive-in,
yeah,
right?
without getting too far into it, because everything that we really wanted to say about it was in the statement. But
Yeah.
it's just that right now we're in Los Angeles and all the theaters are closed, and feeling safe in a theater is a personal choice, but we can't possibly ask people to do something that we personally can't do.
Yeah.
We just can't do it. That's all.
Totally. I think that's a awesome, bold, and fantastic way to look at things. I think that I don't think a lot of directors would probably say that. Now, having said all that, people should definitely go see your movie because I've seen it and it's fantastic. It was one of my favorites of that festival, and it made my top 10 of the year. But unfortunately, since it's not a dictatorship, I was the only one who had seen the movie, so it didn't make our overall top 10. But it was an honorable mention for 2019.
Cool.
Can you kind of explain, insofar as you can actually explain Synchronic to people?
Yeah, Synchronic is about two New Orleans paramedics who have been friends for decades, and they start coming across these first responder calls as paramedics start coming across these very mysterious crime scenes where there's things they can't or victims, things happening they can't quite explain, and all of these strange events are connected to a designer synthetic analog drug called Synchronic. And what that is basically in head shops in the United States, most states it's legal, or at least I don't know where it stands exactly right now, but up until recent history there were these substances called designer synthetic analogs that are like, oh, it's a molecule similar to like THC, but just different enough that you could put it in the marketplace and put on the packaging, not for human consumption. And in theory, it would have similar effects to marijuana, but in actuality, no one really knows what exactly. Oftentimes, no one really knows what these drugs do. They're not really tested.
Interesting. Not a subject I know a whole lot about, so I learned a lot about that sort of thing from the film. That's actually a much better explanation than I got from Aaron at Fantastic Fest. He did not want to give me anything about what the movie was about. He did tell me I had to see it though, so I did. Made some room in my schedule, and you guys had a killer cast. And I talked to Aaron a little bit about this at Fantastic Fest about how you got those guys on board, but not everybody knows that story. So you guys have that story about how you got both Jamie Dornan, Mr. Gray, and the Falcon himself, Anthony Mackie, on board for this project.
Yeah, and actually to go back, the reason I was cagey at Fantastic Fest is because we were still kind of hiding the midpoint of the movie, so we just weren't saying anything at that time. But now it's in the trailer. So with Anthony and Jamie, our last film, The Endless, had just come out, and actually it was finishing up its run, and this wonderful agent named Houston Costa went to go see it just on a lark because he thought the poster was cool or the trailer was cool. And when he got out, he hit us up and said, I rep Jamie Dornan, and would really like to put you guys together if something, because he really loves The Endless. And we sent him Synchronic, and it worked out just like that. I mean, it was almost a few days kind of process, and and shortly after that, we found out that Jamie and Anthony had always wanted to work together, and they'd been two ships crossing in the sea before on other projects, and they were at the same agency. And then the director Joe Lynch was working on Point Blank with Anthony, and Joe's a friend. He had us on his podcast before, and we just said, "Hey, we're going to send a script to Anthony. Can you just let him know we exist and we're not actually Amway salesmen or something?" And he enthusiastically said yes. And then also there's this story that we saw on Anthony's behind the scenes interview, which we didn't conduct. When we saw the interview, he said, "Oh, actually, I was with the Rousseau brothers, and they said if he ever gets the chance to work with us, that we should." So we have no idea if that's true. We don't know if the Rousseau brothers know who we are, but it's a really cool thought if it's true that that's how that happened.
So if you're listening, Russo brothers, if you know who they are, give them a holler. They'd like to know. That's pretty much the story you told me. That's a great story, and I like that it all happened via kind of serendipity. You know, it just kind of happened. That's pretty cool. I like that. And you guys have a great filmography. I've seen The Endless. I've seen Spring. I think Spring is awesome. You guys, when you guys take a look at a film and you're crafting it, do you take a look and say, what is the most unique way we can make this thing?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. It's funny is I don't think we've ever, like, for example, you know, when developing the story and developing the script and then doing the shot list for the movie, all those things, I don't think we ever say the words specifically, how can we make this unique as possible? But something that happens often is, like, if someone throws an idea out there and someone flags it as being, well, that seems a little too familiar. I feel like I've seen that. Well, I feel like I just give you a roundabout way of saying, yeah, you're completely correct.
Yeah, No, it's more like axing the thing that is familiar rather than saying, how do we just get weird? And we try to find truth in something that is simultaneously, makes emotional sense, but also isn't just in a bunch of movies before. And again, to varying degrees of success, depending on how you feel about our movies.
Oh yeah, no, I think that you guys are very successful in that. And like when you look at Synchronic, you look at it and at its surface, and I'll tell you this because I think I told you this. At the surface, just looking at the images and kind of the synopsis, without reading too much into the synopsis, I thought this was going to be some sort of procedural.
Cool.
But it's definitely not that at all. It's definitely not that at all. It's something completely different from that. And I wouldn't even say that it's a normal sci-fi film insofar as normal, it does something really interesting with its characters, and it goes places I didn't expect it to. It even has a great emotional core. You guys wrote the film, am I correct?
Yeah.
When you're writing something like that, how do you go about crafting that final third? And I'm not going to say anything about the final third, but when you're crafting that final third of Synchronic, what made you think, man, this is really going to grab people by the chest and not let them go?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, one of the things kind of interesting, I don't think we've ever talked about it, is like the city of New Orleans kind of provided the third act in some ways, where you're trying to escalate the spectacle of it all and all that, and you dig into the history of the city, and luckily we found an event that fit really well with the movie thematically and otherwise. And then like emotionally with the characters of how you do that. I don't know. I think a lot of it is just it's allowing yourself to start at page one with something resembling an outline and a lot of ideas, and hopefully by the time you're writing the first draft of the final page, hopefully you were kind of surprised yourselves of where it ended up, and then hopefully that translates to an audience as well.
That's a really good answer, and I think it did translate. The audience I saw it with, which is that Fantastic Fest audience, and they eat this stuff up and they love that sort of thing. They seem to love it. We're all chatting, all of us with press passes after the screening, and we couldn't stop talking about how gripping and how interesting the actual narrative was, and the loops and pulls it took us through. But let's let's level it up a little bit. We talked about your fantastic film and your process of making it. Let's ask you a couple of fun ones here. You guys are obviously very talented filmmakers. Who do you guys look to as inspirations, whether it's directing or Justin? I know you've done some acting. In fact, I saw you at another film at that same festival, which I thought was also pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, well, we're funny. We both have acting endeavors, and we're both acting in something. That should actually explain why, if you're looking at us right now,
yeah,
why I look like a SoundCloud rapper, and Aaron
I look like Walter White.
Looks like Walter White Jr.
Yeah, no, you definitely look. You have the little pump look going. Yeah, nice job.
Well, we're working on a little like two-person film right now. Plus, Dave Lawson, our producer, is on crew with us, and so we've changed our appearances heavily. Like half of his tattoos are fake. He does not actually have finger knuckle tattoos. But yeah, what was the question again?
So basically, who are some of your guys' inspirations, whether you're acting?
Oh yeah. Man, there are so many. There's a lot of contemporaries, like people that are we also consider friends, that are huge inspirations to us. Like Robert Cargill is just an amazing guy, also a Fantastic Fest mainstay. People like Amy Seimetz and Sarah Dina Smith, and then also we love the production ethic, and also of course the movies, but the production ethic of people like Soderbergh and Duplass brothers and all of that. Alex Garland always seems to keep on being impressive and trying to do something different no matter what.
We got to direct an episode of Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone, and it was that was a huge privilege, and obviously Jordan Peele's someone we kind of like, we worship we worship at his feet. He's so amazing, and to be able to he was sort of our boss for just a short period of time. It was just awesome just to see how he works in any capacity, how cool he is about everything. And there was a writer on that show named Glenn Morgan who wrote our episode, who wrote the X-Files episode Home.
Oh man, that's one of the creepiest episodes of the X-Files.
Yeah. I rewatched it Sunday night for Halloween. I wanted like Halloween programming.
Oh no way.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. It's so good, and it's also weird to after working with him for a couple of weeks, again as our boss, the coolest boss in the whole world. It was so interesting to revisit this episode after having worked so close to the guy for a little while, and just say oh my god, he's just always been so insanely talented.
So my last one, and this is pretty simple. You guys, can you give the audience an elevator pitch for why they should go see Synchronic?
Should I try that same thing? Outside of the synopsis?
Yeah, outside of the synopsis. You're pitching it. You don't have a synopsis. You're just trying to pitch the movie to an audience.
Okay. So Synchronic is about some lifelong friends who are paramedics that discover at all these different first responder calls these kind of very bizarre, almost nonsensical deaths or injuries, and they're all tied together by this one drug, a designer synthetic analog drug called Synchronic. And there's a lot of movies that deal with a similar science fiction concept, but of time. But we actually treat time as an antagonist, as something that we're all kind of fighting against in a way. And in many ways, hopefully, we have a much warmer movie than you might expect, a much more human movie, because what it ultimately ends up doing is trying to talk about the value of human connection in your present, rather than a look back at the past in an attempt to get it back.
Give them the green light. That's a great pitch for that movie. Great job, guys. It's been a pleasure having you guys on. You know what? Thanks for spending some time, a little bit of time with me today. I appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.